Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Tim.
I'm so excited to be here at Maple Walk. This is my first trip ever. As long as I've known you, this is my first trip here to Maple Walk.
And Matt has been here, and we're glad to have you here.
This is beautiful. I mean, there's just so many cool trees I'm already seeing here. I'm excited to see what you got in this garden. I mean, it looks like right here you've got a gorgeous Tobiosho.
Yes, and it peaked a week or so ago, but it was a real crowd pleaser. People would stop as they were driving by. They would stop and take pictures of it. And being right here in the middle of a residential neighborhood, our neighbors are amazed that we had 3,000 visitors here last year.
Wow.
And so they're very, very patient, and they don't mind people parking on the street. We had 15 cars on the street last weekend.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this tree, Tobiosho?
Yes.
The name sounds Japanese.
And it's not.
It's not.
It's made up.
It's made up. It's made up exactly. Do you know about that?
No. So like Haagen-Dazs.
Milt Toby is named after him, who was a maple propagator for a nursery in Boring, Oregon. And, you know, he found this tree. It had good fall color, and they named it after him. And it sounds kind of Japanese, but it's a conglomeration of a name.
It works.
It works. It definitely does.
It works. No, a little creativity. Well, as we enter the grass here, it's all dingy right now, but this grass is actually a hybrid Bermuda called Tiff Grand that they use on the fairways at Kiwa Island. It's actually long now. It's about twice as long as its normal height. It's one of the few Bermudas that will grow in the shade.
Yeah.
And it's cut by a robot. Harold's our robot that cuts it. So beside us we have a couple of very old American hollies. Obviously the female has the berries. The guy over there doesn't have anything. He looks pretty dingy.
Yeah, give him some good evergreen interest this time of the season. We're here at Maple Walk. Y'all, it's December. We're here in early December. Some of the trees have already dropped leaf. I mean, this is just such a cool walk through, getting to go through and see things that, see what things look like this time of the season. And it's a fun walk through. We've got Florida sunshine right here.
Right.
That is one of the most beautiful golden alyssiums. I love what that tree just provides, that yellow color out there in the landscape.
Interesting thing about these is that it gets sunburned in the winter, not the summer. Because the leaves are off the trees and it will get burn on it, and I'll come back in March and cut back about 18 inches on it, and it fleshes out in no time and it looks good again. In addition to maples, I love conifers. Unfortunately, many conifers don't like Charlotte all that much.
Here's the tree we have from us.
Yeah, I did get that from you.
This is Cypress spicifera True Blue.
Yes.
It's a little blue Sawara cypress with just good blue color out there in the garden.
And it has done well. Another little guy that people like is this little guy, Icebreaker, and it is grafted to Firma.
Yeah, that's the way to go for firs in the South.
Yeah.
I don't know why more people aren't doing that. And this makes them next level.
Well, and it's a slow grower. It's not likely to outgrow its space anytime soon.
The recurved needles just have that silver color to them. They just give something extra out there in the garden, especially during those winter months.
Before we were having anywhere near as many people as we have now, a couple was in the garden, and I said, "How'd you find out about us?" And they said, "Oh, Mom and Dad's ashes are here."
Oh my goodness.
And I said, "Excuse me?" And they said, "You don't mind, do you?" And I said, "Sure, been nice to be asked."
Someone actually put their ashes in the garden here.
Without telling us.
Without telling y'all.
And
my goodness.
And now when I tell the story to groups, people tell me there are other ashes here.
Oh my goodness. Well, you keep up a beautiful garden. A beautiful garden.
So
here we've got a big Acer palmatum nurasagi. That is beautiful.
And
I mean, it's just a cultivar that holds its color well. Deep, deep, deep dark red colors. classic selection from Japan. I mean, that actually is a Japanese name on
There
like
we
Tokyo
go.
Show.
There we go.
Oh, that is beautiful. Really starting to peak up a little bit in the color right now.
Dancing Peacock is obviously past its prime, but a wonderful tree.
Well, if you notice, Aconitofolium or Dancing Peacock, it is also known as Meikujaku.
Yeah,
It goes earlier every year than the rest of the tree.
absolutely.
And you know why that is?
No, I don't.
So it turns fall color based on the length of the day changing, not the temperature of the weather.
Interesting.
And so all these other Japanese maples we're looking at right now are changing based on the temperature.
And why is it different?
We don't know.
Oh,
But just the hormones that causes a senescence, which is fall color,
yeah.
is controlled differently than all the rest of them. And it's true with many of the Acer japonicum selections. Like your Vitifolium
Right.
already went to fall color.
Yeah,
drop.
right.
Wow. I mean, this is probably one of the showpieces of the garden, I would say.
It is, and obviously it's one of the reddest of the maples, and we have people who come every year just to photograph this tree. And it's got a wonderful structure to it.
Osakazuki. It's very distinguishable. You know exactly what this tree is. It just goes to that vibrant red color that you don't get out of many other selections. It's such a vibrant tree and it's such a consistent fall color as well.
Well, and the other thing that surprises people, when I take people in the summer, I point to a green tree and I tell people, oh, by the way, this is going to be the reddest thing in the garden.
Yeah.
And they say, really? You know. So, yeah, and I love the root flare on it. You know, root flare on maples are underappreciated.
And people need to realize too, this is a mature tree in the landscape, and erosion and stuff really brings out that over time. You don't have root flare on a 1 gallon Japanese maple.
Right.
It's not natural.
Right.
And then you see it on an old specimen like this, and it really makes a statement.
Yeah.
And everyone always wants that on a 1 gallon tree, and I'm like,
Oh,
it takes a few years.
Yeah,
I think this is a beautiful selection. I think you got this from years ago.
it is a really interesting tree. As I understand, it's from Taiwan, I think.
Yeah.
And not particularly pretty right now, but I love the yellow bark. And it's got some real pretty variegation in it during growing season. So I kid people that it's not one that they're going to find at the big box store.
Yeah, it's true. And this is an Acer caudatefolium variegata. I mean, it's just that variegated caudate maple. It's a snake bark that has interesting stripes on the bark.
Yes.
And that's a neat feature in itself. Do you ever get any seeds on this from time to time?
I have not.
So if this thing starts producing seed, it's almost like a string, like an ornament.
Oh,
And
wow.
So it's not like your typical maple seed where they're just clusters.
Right.
It's a string.
Interesting.
And so it adds an extra ornamental appeal as well. But snake barks, when you start looking through their seed,
Yeah.
if you have another snake bark in the garden, they hybridize with all the other snake barks. So they're very promiscuous.
Oh, they are.
Exactly.
No, this dogwood we're passing here is one that was developed at the North Carolina Arboretum by Tom Rainey. It's a cross between Kusa and an evergreen Chinese dogwood, Hong Kong Genesis. And this guy is semi-evergreen. It will turn burgundy. It's starting to turn burgundy now. And it will retain about half of its leaves all winter. So I'll have a tree with purple leaves give me winter interest.
Yeah, I like Little Ruby. It's one that you don't see much in the trade anymore. When they first came out, it was very popular, but it goes to that ruby red evergreen color during those winter months. And that is just very different than many of the other evergreen dogwoods
Right.
that are more green during those winter months or semi-deciduous. And you know, there's gonna be slightly semi-deciduous as well.
Oh yeah.
But
But the other thing that's interesting about it, to me, it's bushier than most of the dogwoods, and so it gives you a different look than your typical dogwood.
and it has pink blooms.
It has pink blooms.
It's a win.
That's a win, for sure.
Oh man. Schirrmann's Nordlicht.
Yes.
Love the tall redwoods. This is one of my favorite of them, and it's a dwarfer selection. It was found as a witch's broom on the cultivar white spot by
Oh.
Schirrmann. And sometimes people call it Northlight, which is Nordlicht.
Right, yeah.
But I like the original name because it gives credit to the guy who found it, Schirrmann's Nordlicht.
Please tell me that this isn't going to get too enormous.
This is one of the bigger ones in the country. So, I mean, you got it early on when it came to the United States. There's not too many much bigger than this. I mean, this is probably, what, 10 years old?
Maybe.
And so, in another 10 years, you know, you may get another 6 foot.
But I can deal with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot different than Peve Minaret when it came out.
Oh,
we all thought it was
gosh.
really small, and then
yes,
it took off.
Yeah. It's sort of like Little Gem Magnolia.
Exactly.
People put it next to their house.
Oh, what's this one, Lobo?
This is red pygmy. I joke about red pygmy to people when they're touring that obviously plants don't know how to read catalogs, and red pygmy didn't get the message. But when I planted it here, I really thought I was going to get a smaller tree than this, but it's been great. No complaints.
Now, one of my friends, Cor Van Gelderen, was giving a talk in Italy. And when he was giving his talk, he had some extra spare time and went by Villa Toronto Gardens.
Yes.
And from Villa Toronto Gardens came both red pygmy and Villa Toronto.
Oh, okay.
And they were side by side there in the gardens. And he grafted them, got them in the nursery trays, and that's where the two came from. But I think originally the original red pygmy was a little bit smaller and had a little bit wider form. So I think that's where it got its name.
Well, my Villa Toronto, which I've had longer, is not a third the size of this.
No, it's not.
One of my wife's favorite trees is right here. This is Cornus mass, and it is budded up heavily, and it will be a mass of yellow blooms come February. And it is I love the exfoliating bark too.
I think the Cornelian cherry dogwood is probably one of the most underutilized trees in the landscape. I mean, typically you can get some good fall color out of this tree.
Right.
When the winter months, you have bark interest. During the spring, you get those yellow blooms.
Right.
Like late winter, early spring, that's just before everything else that's blooming in the garden. And then you get fruit on top of that. And so it's just a winter all the way around.
Yeah.
And it's a tree that I'm definitely putting in production more. Between Cornus moss and Cornus officinalis, the two cornelian cherries, the Japanese cornelian cherry and the regular cornelian cherry, they're next level. This is Acer palmatum Kagiri Nishiki.
Yes.
So this is a pretty interesting variegated selection. You don't see it around that much anymore.
Well, one of the things about this one is quick to revert. So I spend a lot of time cutting green branches out of it. But I think that's true of a lot of the variegated maples, isn't it?
Yeah, some of the margin variegation types, when they get established in the landscape, they start getting some vigor to them. You gotta just really avoid lots of amount of fertilizer, and then when they have branches that come out, you gotta prune those out.
Get them out.
Those will take over.
Yeah.
Hey y'all, thanks for joining us for our tour of Maple Walk Gardens here in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's been a blast walking around and talking plants with Tom. Tom and his wife, the Nunnenkamps, they're amazing people. They've got a beautiful garden here, and he took time out of his day to show us around this garden. We really appreciate them so much. They've got a garden here that you can come and visit, so make sure you can go to their website, the Maple Walk website, and learn how to come visit this garden. Y'all, this is a beautiful place. Check them out. And as always, y'all, thanks so much for watching our videos. We're gonna have a part 2 to this as well. So be watching, because we're gonna have that coming up really soon. We're gonna see more of this beautiful garden, more of these beautiful Japanese maples. Make sure you're subscribed here on the MrMaple Show, because we put out daily content all about Japanese maples and gardening. And this garden tour, it's just a small aspect of our walkthrough Wednesdays. We also do a podcast on your favorite podcast platform. We're the MrMaple Show. Thank y'all so much. Take care. God bless, and have a great day.